Okay, so this is troubleshooting for the 5200 analog controller. The easiest way to do checking this out is if you have an Atarimax cart. Oops, wrong button. Hold on one. It's not plugged in. Is it plugged in? No. Alright. So if you load up the onboard flash memory, this up a little bit. You should see the left number, both these numbers over here, those are hex values, and it should be around 70, maybe a little lower, a little higher. So this is your X, you can see there, 0 to EF. This one's just a little out of cals, a little high. This is a prototype unit of mine, so if it's going straight up, that means you're probably going to see 00 there, or a very high number. And it should be right around 70 to 72. So, alright, so first thing you do, shake it, see if there's anything rattling around. Probably not, but if there is, that means it's something broke loose. Otherwise, what happened was something slipped. And even if it did come loose, you just you can literally hot glue it back together again. This is my prototype, which is version 0. Most people have version 1 or 1.1 or version 1.2. The only difference between version 1 and 1.1 is I changed the screws from this style. You notice everyone's going to have screw holes there, but this is the original, which is completely glued together. So just take out the 6 Phillips screws, you open it up, you want to flip it over. Let me get this out of the way just a little bit so you can see. You'll see this is the prototype, so it still has all black parts on it as well. This is your Y, that's your X. So if you're seeing it go straight up, that means either this potentiometer came off entirely or the calibration got really wonky. So if it's still on there, hopefully it still is, then it's just a matter of, you can get like a pair of needle-nose pliers, and you can loosen this nut here, and then you can physically turn. You see how those numbers are going up there? I generally try to lock these down with hot glue just to make sure that they don't drift on cal, but in this case you could just take a pair of wire cutters and cut that's just to set the lock on it. You can see now I can fly all over the place on this. So if it's bad, it's probably close to 0 or something like that. So you just slowly turn it, you blow it up a little bit so you can see it. Right there. And you can see you want to shoot for right around 771. Okay, so I happen to have a wrench for this thing somewhere. Oh, maybe not. It's kicking around. Here it is. You can use pliers. I just use a little wrench. And while holding the pot in place, watching the screen, see how touchy that is? So I'm going to tighten this nut back up here. Turn it up just a little more. Tighten this guy up. Come on. And when you tighten it up, you still get a little wiggle room, so you can actually turn it just a little bit if you like. There. 6'9", close enough. And you just want to make sure it spans all the way from, you could be at like a count off and it won't matter. Say if it's like 6'9" or 6F, 6D, EF. I might turn this one just a little bit more higher. That one doesn't really want to turn much. There you go. There we go. Now it's reading 7.1. That's really what I want it to be at. And like I said, if for some reason one of these cracked completely off, the procedure is the same to bring it back to life. Is you just you'll see this whole bracket assembly will have cracked off. It looks like. I'll show you what that looks like. So this is your Y. It's going to have a bracket. It sits just like that, high up. And it's going to have a washer and nut. And of course the washer, nut, and a coupling right there. So my guess is either it slipped or this entire potentiometer came off, and you can just literally just hot glue it back on. Let me grab my hot glue gun. It takes a minute to warm up though. I've done two versions. I tried with industrial epoxy, and not industrial, but like an industrial adhesive and hot glue. And the problem I've had with the industrial adhesive is it tends to be difficult to work with. And I'll show, like, say, just for giggles, I'm going to rip off this lower one here. So if you see it kicking around like this, you do little arts and crafts. Just going to clean it up. Clean this up a little bit. I'm going to reset this thing so it's centered. I'm actually working on a version 1.2 right now, which has a little circuit board up here instead of some of the jazz I have up here now. So if you have to completely replace, if this came off entirely, you see how way off that X is there? So I'm going to turn this back to gently turn it. It says about 71. And now I just have to wait for my hot glue to heat up, so I'm going to go through and clean this up. You'll see on your only the prototype, or maybe the first 2 serial numbers will have black couplings. Everyone else is going to have red components inside, because I was burning through the black PLA really fast printing these parts out. Come on, glue gun. It's actually really good quality hot glue, so I'm surprised it came loose. But yeah, this is version 0, 1.1, 1.0, and above have a little 3-button assembly that's here instead of this homemade one here. That's what makes it 1.1, and I changed the screws out. And then 1.2 is coming up for the next batch, which has this little interior circuit board here that's going to have, instead of all of these parts shrink tube together. I never finished this. Since it's a prototype, I never really finished this one. Shrink tubing's unshrunk. So you'll this whole first batch, I think of 12 of them, all are going to have shrink tubing like this, and then everything after that's going to have that little circuit board instead. Okay, so if you need to repair, if one of these came flying off, it's just, the technique's the same for the X or the Y. So I'm just making sure I'm seeing 7.1 on the X, which is the first axis. Just do a little hot glue on the end here. A little hot glue on the base where it meets up with the world. And it's good. There's actually the little coupling has a through hole, which is the dimension of, there's a pocket. If you look at the end of these potentiometers that got cut off, there's a little post that comes up. It actually lines up with that pocket, so when I put this together, it's all lined up real nice together. I'll wait for the hot glue to set for a second. And you can see I'm at 8D, 8E, which I'm not really happy about, so I can go ahead and adjust it. Just like I showed before. You can use a pair of pliers, or if you happen to have a really tiny wrench, that works too. So you need to go this way. So I'll loosen up this nut. Turn this until it says 7.2 again. Sorry, this is a little more complicated than the regular digital joysticks. Alright, and I'm going to go that way. And like I said, you can just, if you don't have a little wrench, you can just use a pair of pliers. My first set, until I found this one, I just used a pair of needle nose for this, and it works just as well. Just it's a little bit touchier to do, but not, no way, I'll show you, it's no way impossible to do with this. Forget little needle nose pliers, I'll set this to, that's what most people have around the house, is needle nose, not a little flat wrench like that. Turn your back. Come on, 7.2. There you are. Alright. And since I've got my hot glue here, I'm just going to, what I want to do is kind of lock in the calibration on these. So I just come in along the side and lock it in place. And if that's too much for you, I can build up a fresh one. I could send it out, and then I'll put a return label in there. You can just send it back to me, and I'll just make it an exchange, so it won't cost you anything. But yeah, that's how you fix one of these things, and that's all there is to it. And then there's a little notch that gets cut, that's cut into here, into the enclosure. The string relief drops back in there. So, yeah, 7.2, E4, 0, 7. This one's actually came out pretty nice, cal-wise. And that's it. And if you don't happen to have them, I think you have, most people have an Atarimax cartridge, but if you don't, you can use a game like, say, Star Wars, the arcade game is really good. And because that one's really an analog-y one, so you can just do the same thing as get the radical into the dead center. But yeah, that's internally it's not a terribly complicated thing, because I was able to figure out. I just mounted in Those are 1 mega ohm potentiometers that I cut off the original 5Ks and added a 100 nanofarad capacitor to them. So you'll see a little cap sticking out of it on the first couple batches. The new batch is going to have the cap up on the board. Whatever my screw there. But yeah, that's it. That's how I go through and calibrate it. That's how it's assembled internally. There's no anti-tamper. It's just regular old Phillips screws. Yeah, so it's either something slipped real bad, or maybe your 5200's calibration is way off from mine, which would be a little weird. I have a 4-porter underneath my feet there. So you see me reaching down. It's just turning on my 5200 down here. Ball blazer. Ball blazer has a self cal on the just the beginning of the game, so if you ever want to see ball blazer a little off, you just kind of go through the cardinal points, and it sets the sets it up. Again, if you don't feel like, if you see everything's really broken inside, feel free to send it back, and I can include I'll send a new one out, and you can get I'll just include a return label in there, and you can return it back to me. Otherwise, good luck, and see if you can do a little home repair. I really hope this helps, it makes sense, and yeah, I'll probably just post this as one of my regular videos so anyone can see, hey, it's nothing magical inside, it's actually pretty darn simple. Alright, thanks for watching, everyone.